What's up? Cat King here. Just wanted to introduce myself, share a song I'm working on that'll probably be the theme song for this podcast. I'll be releasing it on Apple Music and Spotify shortly, called Mad, Mad, Mad. And this is just one version of it. I'm polishing it right now as we speak. So, yeah, let's do it. Crazy, they say I'm crazy. What good is living if we're not all a little mad, mad, mad? Angry, they say I'm angry. What good is living if we're not all a little sad, sad, sad? I see you suffer, oh, like no other. It's not another. Oh, I can never get enough of. Oh, when you kiss me, there's nothing missing. So just come kiss me. Oh, babe, you already earned my trust. Crazy, they say I'm crazy. What good is loving if we're not all a little bad, bad, bad? Come out, I'll show you all. Okay. Just a little preview there. Like I said, I'm still polishing it up, but you can see that now I am back at it again with the fresh kids. Okay, let's see. Yes, all right. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen so we can get into it. Close that out. There we go. All right, yeah. So hi everybody, I'm Kat King, and I am a U.S. Army veteran who has been battling treatment-resistant schizophrenia for over 13 years, almost 14, 15 years now. Gosh, over half my adult life. Started in 2012 and I'm 35 now. So yeah, about 13, 14 years. So yeah, we're edging toward 15. And that means that, it's been quite a journey to try to find the right medication, the right therapy, and even continue to be able to work. I pride myself on my education background. I am a teacher and I am a filmmaker and writer. I'm multi-hyphenate creative artist, so you'll see a lot of different types of content from me, both all over YouTube, LinkedIn primarily. LinkedIn and YouTube are like my domains. I'm on Instagram under SchizoKitty, but I'm not really as active on there as I used to be because I'm trying not to support Meta and I'm trying not to support Amazon as well right now. Yeah. So yep, my story is basically that I was looking for content that sort of could, like, I don't know, I was looking for stuff that was made by people like me. And so far, what I found was that I was finding a lot of schizophrenia advocates, people with schizophrenia who were myth busting. Like I'm doing that, a little bit of that too. But I find that people are more or less kind of just sort of vlogging and sharing their experience and answering questions. But I don't see anybody who's like a multi-hyphenate creative artist out there who like writes books and stories and music about their illness. And so I thought, well, I guess there's a hole, there's a vacuum there. So we'll go ahead and step into that and introduce myself. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to share my creative works with you and my lived experience with what I consider to be basically what I call a waking nightmare, from which there is no relief and very little rest. And yeah, so essentially, creative art has become like a therapeutic mechanism for me and a coping mechanism. Having headphones on definitely blocks out voices. So for me, a lot of this series for Mad, Mad, Mad is intended to really be centered on my creative work, my approach to it, and of course, some anecdotes and stories about how my lived experience is specifically informing my writing, in what ways, like which book am I working on, and how does this character's psychosis represent people with schizophrenia more accurately than other creative works that you might see out there. Because like I said before, I haven't been able to find anybody who's publishing, sci-fi who has schizophrenia like I do. So I guess I'm it. And I'm okay with that. I'd like to see, of course, more people like me. So maybe I can serve as a beacon to other people who are wanting to dive into publishing their work, but they just need help getting started. And maybe book a one-to-one with me through my LinkedIn or through my Linktree, and I can help you figure out how to navigate and how to set up your own YouTube channel and your own self-publishing, pipeline basically for sharing and expressing your creative works. Because like I said, there's a lot of uh, schizophrenia advocates who are talking in earnest about their experiences with the disorder, but I haven't really seen anybody who's, writers and movie makers, filmmakers, creative artists like myself. So that's why I'm here. And that'll pretty much be it for this episode, just to give you a highlight of what you can expect from me. Every episode will cover a different creative work or project that I'm working on, and I'll talk about my workflow, the inspiration for it, my approach to everything that I do, and the specific workflows that I'll share, so that if you are watching this as somebody with schizophrenia and you really want to basically just do what I'm doing, you'll get some tips and tricks, like pro tips on how to like save yourself some time on your workflow and developing that creative process. But yeah, this is basically my space for sharing my creative processes and sort of behind the scenes of how I arrive at the completed work that you see on Amazon or on my Gumroad especially. And I really encourage you to check out my Gumroad. That's catking.gumroad.com. And that's like a portal to all of my books and even a few courses. One course is actually a guide for creators, writers, screenwriters, playwrights, musicians, novelists like me who want to feature people with schizophrenia in their art, but they don't know how to do it in a way that's authentic or even respectful. And so I created a guide for that, and that's on my Gumroad. So you can get that today. And it also comes with a webinar that I recorded that will actually include some more personal information about my life and stories that I share during the webinar on the subject of how to portray schizophrenia accurately in your art. And of course, I speak for myself and myself only. There are over 1 million people who have schizophrenia in the US, and we may not all experience it exactly the same. Not everybody has the same level of insight that I do into my illness. Also, insight levels can change over time. Most of the time, it increases. But if you don't get the right support in the prodromal or the early onset stages of the illness, it can really make or break your recovery prognosis. Also, a person's level of just cognitive ability from the outset definitely impacts their ability to maintain insight into their illness throughout the course of their life. So the first couple of things I always tell people about me as somebody with schizophrenia is that this is my story, this is my experience. And like I said, I served in the military. Prior to the military, I already had lived through homelessness, domestic abuse, all kinds of trauma as a young child and through adolescence. And then I came out as gay. So I am an open lesbian. I am a progressive. I believe in equality and equity. I believe in diversity and inclusion. And that means that to me, that as long as you don't mean other people harm and aren't actively trying to harm other people, I generally am all for individual liberty. I am an individualist myself, but I also believe in, community and trying to find solutions and not divide people. So my work, my creative works, my sci-fi novels especially, are all really geared toward trying to start conversations about what if this happens? How would we react as a society? What would we do? And so, yeah, a lot of my projects are really uh, ripped right from like the news headlines, especially the scientific realm. So all of my sci-fi literature, all of it is derived directly from the scientific discoveries, research articles, news, and updates about what we are learning about the world around us from a scientific perspective. So, for example, there is a chance that there was an asteroid that might hit us in 2032. Well, they updated the news cycle to let us know that, oh yeah, hey, guess what? We really did manage to calculate that to 0% chance. So we won't be hit by this asteroid, but there is a chance that it could hit the moon. So I thought, oh, what if it did hit the moon? Well, then what would happen? What could happen? How bad could things get? So, I went and researched it and looked into it, and then I outlined and drafted a story about that, and I call it Moonset. And then I developed that into a novel, which now is available on Amazon for you and Gumroad for you to go read right now for $5.99. And of course, if you want the paperback, I think it's around $10 for the paperback, because these are novellas or short novels. They're not full-length novels. And so, like me, I'm a short fiction writer. I didn't ever think I was actually going to be able to write a whole entire novel. I've never been able to before 2021, when I actually sat down and wrote Glass Stars. And so I didn't really think I was ever going to be able to do it. I thought, you're a short fiction person, like you can write in bursts. And then 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I realized, oh yeah, that explains so much about me, like my whole life from childhood, how I would get really excited and have a million ideas, but I couldn't like sit still to complete any of them, or I'd start fleshing something out and then I'd get like bored, or I'd switch tasks and I'd go away from that to something else completely, and I'd leave so many of my short stories and my novels incomplete. So at one point I just gave up, and I told myself, okay, like you're forever going to be a short fiction writer, like Flannery O'Connor. You're just going to be like one of these people who just puts out short stories, and maybe you compile them into volume sets or whatever, collections and anthologies, but you just give up on the idea of ever actually being able to complete a novel, especially with schizophrenia. For me, I experienced schizophrenia through auditory hallucinations that are abusive, that threaten me, that try to control my behaviors, that are constantly criticizing me. And then there's other frequencies where it's just like background noise that sounds very strange. If you've ever heard like music by Phil Spector, like wall sound from like the 60s, there's a layer of this weird in the background that's kind of almost always present. Sometimes it ebbs and flows, but it tends to get really loud, especially when I'm really stressed. And the voices get worse when I'm stressed or sleep deprived, or yeah, stress and sleep deprivation are the two killers. And then, of course, lack of motivation. If I'm not sleeping because of the voices, then I'm not rested. And then my voices get worse. My insomnia and my paranoia get worse. My writing goes down. My productivity goes down. So I actually do use, yes, I do use ChatGPT to help me brainstorm, to help me organize my thoughts, to assemble my thoughts in a cohesive, succinct manner. And then I take that and I put that into a Word document or Google Drive, and I edit it from there. I proof it, I edit it. ChatGPT is good at like getting you started on things, but again, it's not great because ChatGPT, for example, really loves the word thick. You can't get away from thick. Everything is thick and everything has a thickness to it. So that's just one example of how like you really can't just copy paste and then publish. You have to still add and endow and imbue your creative voice, your style, your especially voice. Voice is really important to me, like getting the voice of the character. I want the voice of the character to feel like natural and grounded in reality. And ChatGPT tends to write very hyperbolically and very like metaphysically and poetically, and it's very highbrow. And I'm trying to get like gritty, realistic, like Bukowski-esque dialogue, and that doesn't jive. So I really have to take those drafts and put them into Word, and then actually go through them word for word, page by page, and proof and edit and add and take away anything that I don't feel actually fully communicates or expresses my style. But it at least gets me started. So it can get me over that writer's block hump. So that's why I'm here, because I'm also here to say, look, I don't hate AI. I'm not a total like anti-AI person, but I am an ethical transhumanist and I am an ethical futurist, which means I do believe that we do need a solid ethical framework based and rooted in the principles of diversity, equity, inclusion, and empathy, so that we can make sure and that our future is truly secure, because we can't have a human species without diversity. We just need diversity. And of course, every culture needs to be respected. And of course, nations' borders need to be respected. And we can't go back to 1,000 years ago. We are where we are now. But that being said, there's a lot of harm that's been done. So my work is shining a light on a lot of those different issues. Goodbye Blue Sky is one of my books I'm writing right now, which is about a Ukrainian orphan who has been living in Russia with a Russian family, and they've tried to force her to become Russian. And then there's a volcano that explodes somewhere in the Ural Mountain range, and it causes a whiteout, like a mini ice age, basically. And she gets stuck in it, basically, and has to survive her way, through it at a very young age. And it's sort of, I come from Ukrainian Russian heritage, Ukrainian Russian Polish Latvian Estonian heritage, a mixed heritage. On one side it's English, on the other side it's uh Ashkenazi Jews from Russia, Ukraine, Poland, Latvia, et cetera, Ukraine. So that's partly my heritage. I feel a strong pull and tie toward those countries, toward that part of the world. I've studied Russian and Ukrainian, and I'm still picked up Ukrainian this year, this last couple of years because of the war. I wanted to really show that, like, yeah, I see you. I see Ukraine. That's still part of my lineage, and I feel very conflicted about it. So, Goodbye Blue Sky is a space and a place for me to um, sort of live vicariously through this novel, relive my childhood traumas, and also bring a light or shine a light on the plight of the 20,000 plus Ukrainian children who were taken from their families and repatriated into Russia and forced to be Russian. And so, yeah, that's what Goodbye Blue Sky is about. But yeah, so I have a lot of different stories and books. I have a whole anthology of short stories that are about different planets, and those planets are based on real planets that we've been discovering. James Webb Telescope has been discovering lots of different types of really cool planets that we didn't think could ever exist. So I'm writing stories about that kind of thing. And then I have more like body horror, surrealist fiction, and speculative stuff that has like more of a sort of a sinister vibe to it. And that includes the abyss gazes also, which is inspired by actual scientific warnings about something called synthetic mirror bacteria. So it's a real thing that exists, and it's a or a potentially real thing that could exist, and that the scientific community is actually issuing warnings to fellow researchers about in the public sphere, and saying, hey, if we keep like researching this, it could actually end up evolving and like destroying us. So yeah, there's bigger threats out there than just World War III conventional warfare. But yeah, so that's what the Biscays is also is about. And then I wrote a novella, a full-length novel called The Stars Began to Speak, which is about a strange humming sound that attacks the a certain region, a part of the United States, a region of the United States, and it spreads and it attacks people in groups of three or whatever, something like that. I think that's where I was going with it. Talking about triads and all of that. And it's about three sisters who are estranged from each other because of their families' toxic ways of being. And these three sisters end up kind of reconnecting, and one of them has schizophrenia. So yeah, so like almost all the protagonists across almost all of my literature have some form of schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder or psychosis, and that's all based around and inspired by my real lived experience. I'm trying to think of so yeah, so each episode of Mad 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 will kind of delve into each of these projects. I'll share you a brief summary about each of them, and then I'll walk you through like my process, my workflow, and the art and everything that I create for, because I do everything. I create my art, I create my music, I do it all. I produce everything. And there's nobody helping me with any of that. So I do it all. I use Canva, I use ChatGPT, I use Instagram for editing reels together. Then I transfer that into Canva and I keep working with it. I use a bunch of different types of editing software and apps, and of course the old school stuff on the iMac that I'm on now even is still useful to me and I still use it. So I'll take you through my I'll take you through my novels, and then I'll do another series where I go through my scripts and my treatment projects for films and TV series, because I also package together TV series and movies. And so I create treatments for them and outlines and of course, budgets and all of that. So I'll also talk about my approach to that, especially as somebody again who with disabilities like ADHD. I've tried to like streamline and simplify the process so that I can get to things quickly and nothing's like in my way and that the wall doesn't come up. I call it the ADHD wall, and that impacts my ability to like get started on things. It kind of like causes paralysis because I have so much to do and I like don't know where to start, so I don't do anything. And so yeah, so this podcast is primarily like talking a lot about my processes, about all of my work. So I'm going to start with like my novels, and then I'll go into my like scripts, screenplays, plays, and even an opera that I'm working on with my fiance about Elizabeth Bathory. If you've never heard of Elizabeth Bathory, she is with one of the world's most infamous serial killers. She's famous for having been known for bathing in the blood of virgins, but I'll tell you right now that like there's a lot of to that whole story that it's worth actually watching the episode that's coming about that, because I did a real deep dive into research on Elizabeth Bathory. And I've actually been researching her for many years now, and only in recent months was I actually able to find out that somebody actually did a whole like PhD or a master's thesis on Elizabeth Bathory, and so we actually have more information than we ever did about her. And so there's some really interesting stuff that's worth sharing. So you'll hear from me an episode about that once we get to my plays and my movies series. But yeah, we'll start with the novels. We'll go from novels, and then we'll go to plays and scripts and movies and all of that, and film, and then we'll go into music from there. And then I'll show you my how I do all my music stuff and why I release music through TuneCore versus DistroKid and all of that. If you want to know, you can always ask me, and I'll make an episode about that later on, or a short, or do a couple of shorts about it. I think, is there anything else I wanted to share on Mad 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 today in episode 1? No, this is really just an introduction and a welcoming you to, the world of treatment-resistant schizophrenia and the arts, and how to be a successful artist. Because I think a lot of us just don't believe that people with schizophrenia can be disciplined, can keep to a schedule, can concentrate, can, stay focused to complete things. And I'm telling you that with assistance, with support, and with the right tools, you can. It's possible. And that's what Mad 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 hopes to accomplish, is just being able to sort of be an example of what's possible out there. Hopefully inspire somebody else to take the reins on their own story and share that with the world, however they decide to go about that. And yeah, so I'll try to do this. I'm going to try to publish once a week, an episode, and then I'll be doing my AMAs on my Myth Busting Schizophrenia podcast. I'll be doing Ask Me Anything Live. So if you ever want to actually ask me a question directly, I would say hit me up when I'm doing my AMA live on YouTube. This month in April, probably around the 15th or so, mid-April is when I'm planning on doing it. Give me time to sort of really collect my thoughts and just put everything together and get ready for the trolls, because I know the trolls are coming. But yeah, so thank you. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and I hope that you'll be with me on the next episode. And yeah, this is Kat King signing off from Mad Mad Mad, and I'll see you next week.